obviously we had the preparations for this meeting and work on future meetings. We keep speaking about having a forward planning that you, the community, have requested. You know, being able to both regularize your travel schedules and better coordinate with all the other operations meetings that are going around globally. And there has been progress in that realm, and Betty will mention that during her update. I don't want to steal her thunder. We have fortnightly conference calls, and the minutes are published. URLs are there, easily findable on the redesigned website. The 2009 minutes are pending because I don't believe the one meeting we've had so far this year has been published. New business. We've been working on some things that have come up in the past, standardization of conference network experiments, i.e. do interesting things but don't break the network, as in not a repeat of the IPv6 hour, but still learn something interesting. We are looking at new models and additional vendor participation, additional sponsorships. We have some ideas, but we need to hear from you all how much vendor presence, how much marketing would really be too much in your mind. We've been sticking to our model of a whole lot of, shall we say, limited marketing presence, and in some ways that doesn't necessarily help us get the people, the marketing people who are going to spend the dollars to actually spend the dollars to help host a meeting. So we need to hear from you all how much is too much. We don't want to go all the way to Consumer Electronics Show land, but we need to add a little bit more. We've also been trying to facilitate more operator input from you all into the research community. There was a survey done during NANOG 44, and Nafsanta Fatima, hopefully I didn't mangle your name badly. She is here from RIT with a survey, a paper survey to be filled out while you're here. She's going to be sharing the results with the community and has had a desk out by registration. I've seen a lot of you guys actually filling it out, so yay, progress. Most importantly, new business is whatever you all say is important to you. So if there are issues we are not addressing, let us know. If there's issues we're spending time on that you don't think is important, let us know. How do you let us know? Standard mailing list slide. NANOG@nanog.org for all your operations, engineering, and random discussion. NANOG Futures for discussion about NANOG itself. Hopefully everybody here is on NANOG attendees and has been participated in the interesting discussion about medical concerns in coming here. Steering@nanog.org is how you reach the steering committee. NANOG PC to reach the PC. And note, Todd, it's nanogpc@nanog.org this time around. And admins@nanog.org, of course, to reach the MLC admins. Any questions? Nobody jumped up to a microphone to interrupt me, so I didn't offend you. Sorry, Bill. All right, Todd Underwood, take it away.
So in general, these meetings are interesting in the proportion of how much people have been drinking, and I'm sensing there's been a lot of pool time, which is good. And there is a bar at the pool, but I actually did a quick survey, and I talked to the bartender, and y'all weren't drinking very much. So this is probably going to be another boring community meeting, but we're going to get through it. Okay, so program committee. The program committee is the very large and yet very productive group of people who put together the content and to some extent the structure of the meeting. So the steering committee is responsible for overall governance of NANOG. Merit is the fiscal agent for NANOG and does all of the operations and day-to-day work of making the meetings happening and running the infrastructure. And the program committee selects the content and, more importantly, recruits the content. So if you really like what's on the program, you can come up and find any of the people on this list, and you could thank us for selecting and recruiting and shepherding such wonderful content. If you really, that's actually useful feedback. In particular, if you don't say, it's a great meeting. It's a great meeting is nice. We feel good. If somebody comes up to us and says, great meeting, it's nice. But that's just one sort of hair shy of just as useless as this whole meeting sucked. Both of those are like, okay, fine, you liked it, you didn't like it. What would be more useful is, this talk was great. And what would be even more useful was, this talk was great, comma, because. See, that we would like. You see where I'm going with this? You guys don't see where I'm See, it's the beer is the problem, I'm telling you. I won't ask all these people. Yes, sir. Oh, excellent. There you go.
So if we had feedback on that, where would we put it?
Well, it's coming. I'm going to skip ahead.
How do we find these
Okay,
people?
so first of all, let me just say, right there, NANOG, pc@nanog.org. The guy in the corner already said that. So you could do that. There is also a survey, right? And there is a survey that will be given. There's a link to it. It will be given during the meeting. You'll fill out the survey. Sort of as you're closing in towards the last third of the meeting, you'll be thinking to yourself about two things. One is your flight home, and the second is filling out the survey. As soon as you think about your flight home, okay, you're all very relaxed. You're going down, and you're thinking about your flight home. As soon as you think about your flight home, you will think, I need to fill out the survey. Okay? That's very good. The other thing is program committee members have special badges. I'm actually confused about that because mine is green. Are they green?
Yellow and blue make green.
I'm green because you guys are yellow. Got it. All right, so it's very confusing. Anyway, so program committee members, except for me, are yellow. And go to this list. These people are from all kinds of different companies and are very responsible, very smart, very cool people, and we all put together the program together. I usually do a quick, it used to be the case that we would basically accept everything that was submitted, and the feedback we got from the committee was that's more or less unacceptable because there's some percentage of the stuff that's submitted that's just not appropriate for some reason, and essentially we got the feedback, you guys need to recruit more good content so that we can, not have that last sort of 20% of stuff we didn't want to see there. So we took that seriously. We went out and recruited a bunch of good talks. And we got to the point where now we are in the position of having to turn down some decent talks, which used never to be the case. So for this NANOG, we had 44 talks submitted. 10 of them were withdrawn for one reason or other. Some people couldn't get travel approval. Some people, changed their mind about being able to give the talk. Some people flaked out because it happens. People flake out. 8 were declined by us. There were some interesting reasons for that. Some you guys would expect. Insufficiently technical or overly marketing. There were a couple that were that way. This is a architecture. It looks technical because it has network maps in it, but it's really only network maps that are appropriate for one vendor's technology, and if you want that, you should just go get their slides off their website. Yes, Fran? Oh, right there. This is Mike.
Hello?
There you go.
A good percentage of the declined presentations were due to insufficient material. They gave an abstract and nothing more ever, despite prompts.
That is a really good point. So of the list of reasons we had, that was another one where people, there's a fine line. We understand that we want presentations that are as real-world useful as possible. If you're presenting a brand new protocol that nobody's ever going to use, but it's an interesting protocol, we'll definitely consider it. If you're presenting a case study of an implementation of something that nobody's ever presented a case study of, and you actually did it, and it's in use by your customers, you just jump to the head of the line. Your presentation's getting in. On the other hand, people who can do that latter kind of presentation are busy people running networks, and so sometimes they submit presentations with an abstract and no slides. Sometimes they submit 5 slides. 5 slides is okay, but it's actually fairly difficult to tell what kind of a 30-minute presentation those 5 slides are going to turn into. So sometimes we ended up prodding people very hard, and sometimes the prodding failed. We had a bunch of topic audience mismatch where it was just, yeah, this is a good presentation for some other conference, but you guys aren't going to like it. We had some similar presentations, but there was another one that was already accepted that were better. And there were a bunch of just too late to get in stuff. Like, the conference is full, I'm sorry. So if you want to present at NANOG, it's not that hard. I mean, seeing a 18-20% decline rate should encourage you to think that if you submit an even vaguely interesting presentation with more than 5 slides roughly on time, you'll probably get your presentation accepted. 26, yeah, I don't know, that's right. 26%, 26 were accepted, so 58%. Let me say something about lightning talks. Everyone here know what lightning talks are? No? Yes? Again, with the bar problem. So this is an innovation that Steve Feldman brought to us. I think you got the idea from the Perl conferences, right? Is that? Oh, okay. So other people in the program committee had sort of seen this at the Pearl conferences. Basically, we set aside a decent-sized chunk of time, usually somewhere between 2 and 4 half-hour slots, to be divided up into 10-minute lightning talk time periods. Lightning talks are perfect for this audience because you don't have to do them in advance. It's only 10 minutes. It can be done immediately before you walk on stage or, half an hour before, but it needs to be topical and interesting enough that you can compete with all the other people who are also procrastinating slackers. No, I didn't say procrastinating slackers. That's not what I meant to say. But lightning talks are very popular because they tend to be incredibly zippy, fast-paced, usually very topical and relevant. We still have a ton of lightning talk slots, and now is the time to prepare them. So if you have an idea for a lightning talk and you just want to prepare an abstract and submit it, go to nanogpc.org, set up a speaker account, go to the lightning talk link, and submit the abstract. If your abstract is approved, you'll be on the next day's lightning talks. The lightning talk slots for tomorrow will be announced later tonight. So if you've submitted a lightning talk and you haven't heard back from us, that's when you will. There have been actually not that many submitted yet, so there's plenty of time for any others. Any questions on that? So the main thing, the reason we come to here is we want to know how we're doing. What are your priorities for the program? What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? What's good? What's useless? We'll take that feedback now. If I knew a way to sort of anger one or two of you enough to make you come to your feet. We're looking at Philly NANOG doing nothing but V6 content. We might throw in a little bit of Lisp, but it'll just be all V6. What we've decided is that IPv4 is pretty useless. I mean, nobody's using it for anything. The porn and spam have taken it over, and nobody wants porn. I mean, that's clear. So, yeah.
I think that's a great idea because it means we actually get to spend more time at the pool. So, yeah.
But it's in Philly. Is there a good pool? No. See, there's no good pool in Philly.
Who said we have to go to Philly?
Well, this is what we're looking at for the Philly now.
There.
All right, sorry. Any other? I'm kidding about the V6 thing. V6 is never going to happen. There's no transition path. Both of those things are true. Anything else from anyone? Feedback? Oh, feedback? Yes, Mike in the corner.
Hi, Sylvie Laperrière from Tata Communications.
And a member of the program committee.
Yes, that would be the yellow tag. I would like to have people's opinion about going from 3 meetings a year to 2 meetings a year.
That was an excellent discussion. So this is there's a number of structural discussions about meetings that come up periodically, how to divide the time at a meeting, how long meetings should be, and this is one of the topics that comes up pretty consistently. This is, believe it or not, related to the point Joe was making about sponsorship. At the last time we seriously looked at this, and Betty can comment during her time up here, the challenge is that Merit has a set of resources dedicated to supporting NANOG that if you divide them by the revenue from 3 meetings, it works out actually pretty well. We're doing, I mean, we don't have a big surplus, but we're losing almost no money and making some money on most meetings, and Betty will talk about that. If you go to 2 meetings a year, the finances change pretty substantially, and you would need probably, I'm just guessing, but a couple $100,000 per meeting extra, which is not inconceivable. It's just that's been the challenge in the past. But a number of people,
if that's important to people, and we need to revisit it in detail, then we will need to seriously re-examine the current sponsorship models to be able, and probably have to have more marketing presence to get more dollars in.
Yep.
And certainly not to steal any thunder from Todd or Joe, there is room on the survey. We actually put a question on the survey again asking about venues, specifically trying to draw out input from the larger community, those that are here, those that are watching remotely. So hopefully we can have some continued discussion here, but really, really what's going to make a significant difference is to complete the survey and provide us detailed comments and recommendations. So it's not just, I want this, but offer some suggestions on how to get what you want, knowing if you go to the financial page on the NANOG website in the vein of transparency, you can see what meetings cost. So not only look at what you want to have happen, but look at the money logistics of what Merit has been spending to prepare and provide the meetings for you.
And those of you actually watching the stream and participating remotely, the survey is available to remote participants.
Yes. Martin, and then we'll go to Joel.
With great thanks to Merit, and that's a statement I've said for many, many years, and other people have as well. What's interesting about what you just said is I think it's around the wrong way. The purpose of the conference is to provide a location and a place for communication, whether it be via the talks or individuals. And so it may be more important to listen to the attendees, and I say membership, than to sit and look and say the primary reason for 3 is the financing of Merit for the conferences. The way you said it was a little round the wrong way. The logic of needing 3 and therefore the level of sponsorship makes sense. However, and if the survey deals with this, then great. But I can say, if Sylvie said it and I'll say it, I'd be happy and could come up with substantiation as to why only 2 meetings a year is needed. But that's going away from the how do you sponsor and how do you pay for it statement. I'm looking at it from me, a member, me, a participant point of view.
Joel?
Joel Yegley, Program Committee Member. I would just observe that when we shack up with the RIR for one meeting, we lose a day of the program anyway. And, given the amount of the effort that goes into actually recruiting good material, like even that one is a serious challenge. I mean, we have, we have a lot of stuff to get through. Mm-hmm. And, when you add in the buffs and all of that, even, meeting in conjunction with errands substantially detracts from the amount of material that we can put in the program today. So I would just observe that in the context of a 2-meeting versus a 3-meeting context, because if we had 2 meetings with one with Aaron, then that has that much more implication for the actual length and breadth of the program.
Okay. Keith?
Keith Mitchell, ISC. It's unclear to me what the advantages of 2 meetings are. Certainly for right meetings they've gone from 3 to 2, and I think there's a loss of continuity as a consequence. If NANOG meetings are a good thing, why do we want less of them? That's just my thoughts.
I'm positive there are people in the audience to speak to that, so I'm not going to say your stuff for you, so come to the microphone. Bill Norton.
I had a different thread. I'm wondering if I should back off and let this one continue.
Okay, if this is on that thread, hold on for a second and we'll come back to you. Yes.
This is on that thread.
Yes,
Lucy Lynch, Internet Society, and I am a NANOG alum. My work doesn't really take me into this community every time anymore. And 3 meetings is important to me because it gives me an opportunity to get here when I have an opening. And I think you don't do enough outreach to those of us who are NANOG lovers and alums.
Okay.
I'm back.
Senor Levy. Senor Levy.
You're right, this needs more explanation. So it isn't just an issue of NANOG, and Lucy, the comment is absolutely valid. I mean, there's a great aspect of the NANOG meetings, but they aren't in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. We also have GPF, whether it's coincident like it is now, but it normally isn't. We have the European Peering Forum. If I go look at the right meetings at 2 a year, if I look at AP-NIC at 2 a year, if I look at Apricot. Now, for global players...
Can I interject just 1 second? I just want to give a special shout out to NZNOG, whose meeting we have scheduled again this week, and we're really sorry, guys. I hope you're out there watching.
You can follow it online. But if you look at this globally, we have an awful lot of meetings, an awful lot of opportunities to get together. Mm-hmm. And as much as some of those are regional, some of them also handle the same set of global players. So for a special subset of people that are at NANOG, there's actually an awful lot of meetings. Yep. That's why, and from my company's point of view, that's why I pushed and said that, yeah, if there are only 2 of these, that'd be fine. Because there's plenty of other events that go on throughout the globe, even though sometimes they do come very close or overlap.
I mean, for a lot of the folks that visit a lot of meetings, there's always the question of, can your company be sending somebody else, or maybe you don't have to send somebody to every meeting. That's true.
Skip a meeting.
Did you?
You don't die when you skip a meeting. I'm going to tell you.
Betty, did you?
I actually never thought about that.
Well, I think Martin makes a really, really good point in that there are a number of global meetings that just in scheduling an NANOG is difficult, trying to get ahead of the curve or trying to avoid all the various meetings to host an NANOG is a challenge. A number of us who are actually the providers, the logistical providers of national and international meetings, had a bit of time to talk while we were in LA, and we're committed to having some ongoing discussions, of course, all driven by the community, but as logistical planners, what can we do? Does it make sense to align our calendars a little bit better? Again, this kind of discussion is important for all of us. You who have to travel to these various sites, and all of us who have to work hard to avoid overlapping with each other. So we all have the same goal. We just have to come up with ways to try to solve it.
And just one other comment, Martin. About 2 years ago, I tried to get a conversation going because I think you made an important point. It is a subset. It's not a small subset, but it's a very particular subset of the NANOG audience that goes to lots and lots of international conferences. And the goal, and I think you're in that subset, and Sylvia's in that subset. I see maybe 20%, 30% of the people in that room are people I've seen in Europe, I've seen in Asia. So I understand that. What those people are looking for, I think, is two things: is enough meetings and is a critical mass at each meeting. You neither want to go to too many meetings, nor do you want to go to a meeting that has insufficient other people there that the meeting itself was not worthwhile. I made a suggestion to a combination of people from Europe, North America, and Asia that it should be possible, because the main goal of those people is peering. It is a focus on peering. And I made a suggestion to try to put a strong peering focus on a single RIPE meeting, a single Apricot meeting, and a single NANOG meeting per year, and make that meeting have critical mass. At that point, however many other meetings NANOG has, as long as those are distributed around the year in an appropriate way, you've solved your problem. You have enough meetings, and each of the meetings you go to has critical mass. That conversation didn't really get anywhere, but I'd be happy to help you try to get that started again. Let's see, we are there. Patrick.
Hi, Patrick Gilmore, Akamai Technologies.
And a member of the steering committee.
And a member of the steering committee. So, talking as somebody who does go to a lot of these meetings, but thinking about just NANOG, having 3 meetings a year is actually, especially in this quote-unquote economic climate, is actually becoming a burden to some people. And skipping a meeting is unfortunately not actually necessarily a good idea for us. To come here, and I'm not talking about just coming here for peering, because believe it or not, that's actually not why I come here. To come here to talk to people, if I only come to 2 a year and you only come to 1 or 2 a year, we might not see each other at all, or at most once a year. There is a small but important difference between seeing every 4 months and 6 months. There's a much, much, much larger difference between having face-to-faces every 6 months and every 12 months. Mm-hmm. So by dropping it to 2 a year, we may actually see more people come. We may see fewer people not come to meetings, which is also another problem. I mean, we didn't fill the 500 here, right? Yeah. And so it's probably, there's trade-offs back and forth, but I'm just saying, I personally think that, there's going to 2 meetings is okay, dropping meetings or not coming actually has a lot of bad side effects that you may not see until you start doing it.
Okay. Brandon?
That actually segued perfectly.
Wait, who are you again?
Hi, I'm Brandon Ross with Xiocom.
Excellent.
I'm going to have to be on the exact opposite side of that because I tend to miss, although I've been coming to NANOG for a very long time, I tend to miss meetings periodically and regularly because of either work demands or personal demands or money demands or whatever the heck the problem is at that time. And having 3 meetings a year means that if I miss 1 meeting, it's only a few more months until there's another meeting. But if there's only 2 meetings a year, now it's an entire year since I've been to a NANOG if I miss just 1 meeting. Mm-hmm. So for me, that it's actually worse to have only the 2 meetings a year, even though, granted, I'm probably less likely to miss one. But on the other hand, especially if they don't get announced, say, a year in advance, because that tends to be where my vacation frequent flyer mile conflicts come from, because that was actually how I missed the last meeting I missed.
All right,
Unless they're
Betty's
be
going to
announced a
have
year in
something
advance.
for you. We're working on that. You're going to be
okay.
happy.
But still, the point is still, if it's inevitable that I'm going to miss a meeting, now it's a whole year in between. And now if I miss 2 meetings in a row, holy cow, now feels like 3 years since I've seen anybody. And
18 months, but who's counting?
Oh, okay. Fine. Feels like. Forever. I miss you guys.
We miss you too, Brandon.
We love you, Brandon. Okay. Bill?
You know, I think Patrick said perfectly what I was going to say regarding the 2 versus 3 meeting. We are in very tough economic times, though, aren't we? So I think Merit's going to have to take a look at the finances and keep things sustained over the next couple of years. But the new thread I wanted to start had to do more with the program. One of the things that I think Ren is doing really well is evolving NANOG through this orientation, this newcomer orientation. Mm-hmm. Each time I see something new that's being tried, and I really, really like that a lot. And I would encourage the program committee to try and do more things, more different things. You know, if it fails, I think that's just fine. Mm-hmm. This is a very risk-tolerant group of folks that would be more than happy to try some new things. So I would love to see, 1 or 2 things in this meeting next time that you say, we're doing something different this time, and we'd love to know how you feel about 4 breakout sessions happening at the same time among these different communities of interest. Or we're trying a new ad hoc BOF that's going to happen Sunday night at 6 o'clock. You're going to put up pieces of paper of things that you're interested in on the wall and groups, whatever.
I've been trying to do that one for a while. I just can't organizationally get it off the ground yet. But yeah, we want to do that. Only on a
I'm
website.
just making ones up. But
No, that's a good one. I like it.
I'd like to see 1 or 2 or 3 new things at each NANOG that we try, and hopefully half of them fail, but the ones that really succeed will be really cool, and no other operations forum will have done them.
Okay. Noted. Let's wrap the discussion here since there's no one else at the mic. I'm going to hand it off to Chris to talk about the mailing list committee. Betty will have a lot of substantive information about the organizational and finance structure during the merit report, and then at the end we can talk about all this some more. Chris.
Thanks, Todd.
Hi, I'm Chris Foster. I'm the mailing list committee chair. And I'm going to try to make this as quick and painless as possible for you. We've gone over all of this before. The mailing list committee was formed several years ago, and it's by us and for us. Merit provides us support, and we as a community run the mailing list. Currently it is Randy Epstein, who is here sitting down in front. Myself, Sue Joyner, Simon Lyle, and Tim Yoakum, and Steve Feldman helps us out as a liaison between the steering committee and the mailing list committee. Oh, I'm sorry. The numbers beside the names are when these terms expire. So you'll have Randy and Tim for another 1.5 years. So our job as the mailing list committee is basically to make sure that the mailing list doesn't get out of control. We do understand how everybody feels about off-topic posts and threads, and I know that it causes a lot of people to be driven away from the mailing list, and we do our best to inform new people that have joined the mailing list what the rules are when they kind of slip out of bounds. You won't hear very much from us. You'll really only hear from us when it's something that has gone truly drastically wrong. And you may have seen a couple posts from myself asking people to cut something out. So again, this is a community-run mailing list, and we need your involvement. And I know there's a lot of you who used to be on the mailing list, who used to read the mailing list and contribute to it regularly. And you're very knowledgeable and clueful people, and we need you back on the list, contributing and really trying to bring something of value back to it, because it is a useful tool when someone needs to reach out to the community as a whole and without you, we're a little lost. So we do have a sense of humor. I did get some private emails when I complained publicly about a haiku that went around, and you know what, there is a lot of humor in a lot of the posts, but what we really expect from you is that you're going to contribute some content to it as well, and something that almost 10,000 people can read and get something out of. Oh, sorry, is there a question over here?
A request. I'm on a number of mailing lists, some of which have stats that tell you who posted high posting and whatever in the course of a week or whatever. I'm not really interested in that, but there are some extremely long threads on NANOG, and I know that people get tired of those. I would be really interested in stats month to month on joins and drops, particularly if those drops are related to some of those threads.
Okay. Unfortunately, these statistics have fallen into a little bit of disrepair. So I don't have especially anything that granular, but that's something that we can talk about. And I'm sure that it would actually be very helpful to see how much damage some of those threads are actually doing to the membership. Where we left off in October at the last NANOG, there were only 9 people that we had warned, and immediately following NANOG, there was actually 1 ban. November, only 5 reminders, 2 formal warnings. We do distinguish between the two. The formal warnings are usually for something more severe, especially personal attacks, which we do not take lightly. December was quiet, and January we had a couple very long, very useless threads going on. So a lot of people were reminded and warned about these kind of things. So like I said, bans, very, very rare. These are not something that we want to do. I mean, we don't want to kick people out of the community. It just doesn't make sense. It's not what we're trying to accomplish. We only do it after 3 formal warnings. So there are a lot of contributors that are getting up there, and I think they need to step back and really take a look at what they're posting to the list. And just so that you understand, the ban is not for life. We've limited it to the longest remaining time a current MLC member has on the mailing list committee. So there is a NANOG attendee list. No one's used it so far for this NANOG, but if you'd like to... Professor? Maybe I'm not subscribed.
That would be beautifully ironic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, thank you for using it.
There was a medical thread.
Chloroquine. Do you need chloroquine to go to...
Beware. Oh, beware. That was probably tagged as spam.
Beware. Your pharmaceutical filter may be too tight, Chris.
I gotta tell you, I unsubscribed from the main NANOG list, but the NANOG attendee list is very valuable. That's really cool. Thanks for doing that.
Good, no problem. All right. So there is also a wiki, nanog.clupon.net. And this is something that you could also think about utilizing. There's a lot of stuff that is probably more of a sticky type subject that operators might find useful. What the mailing list committee is looking for from you is some ideas for other possible forums. We've been tossing around internally the idea of creating a web-based forum, or even going to a fully moderated list, not leaving the main list as is, but running in parallel a moderated list in which we would forward substantive postings. We'd like to get some discussion going. This probably isn't the right place for it or the right time, but Randy and myself are here. You can approach us at any time and talk to us about this. NANOG Futures is there. You can talk about anything about NANOG on NANOG Futures. And we could take any small questions now, or you can feel free to email us at any time. Steve Philbin.
Hi, I just wanted to echo thanks from the steering committee. You're doing a thankless job, so you probably don't get this very often, but I'm glad you're up there doing what you're doing. Even gladder it's not me. One of the things, I did want to have one comment. One of the things that's really hard to bring into balance is the level of moderation, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate on the main list. Judging by the fact we've had few complaints recently, I tend to think that we've had a pretty good balance, but I wanted to encourage everyone here, anyone on the list, listening, whatever, to make sure you let us know what you think. If too few, too many warnings, topics, things that are on or off topic, we'd really like to know so that we serve what you want, not just what we think you want.
The only comment I would have is that I think at some point it may be worthwhile refocusing the discussion again on maybe splitting the list up into a couple of different areas. Maybe not here, maybe not right now, but it might be one of the things to do to make the volume and the focus more appropriate for different folks.
Okay.
That is probably a really good thread to start on NANOG Futures, because it comes up from time to time, but I haven't seen a thorough, like, here's a proposal or here's something I'd really like to discuss and try to get people involved. So, you got a keyboard, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And one plea, a final time, please, if you've left us, come back. We can really use more clueful folk. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Space. All right, I guess that's me. Space bar again.
That mic's nowhere near you.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear? I hate good, because I really don't like that thing. I'm going to be quick with my slides. I'm going to breeze through them and then hopefully engage in some discussion at the end, because I'm sensitive to our time for our reception tonight and want to make sure that we leave a lot of time for the follow-on discussion. As with all of our meetings that we have, it's important for Merit to acknowledge we can't do these meetings alone, and the thoughtfulness of our hosts going forward coming forward and offering to host a NANOG is truly appreciated by us at Merit and certainly by the community. So we want to give them their due. The contributors as well. Sometimes contributors are really underrepresented. They don't actually give us cash or do as much as a host, but there are key pieces of the infrastructure that make this meeting possible. So if you haven't said thank you to some of the folks that are here from these agencies or sent them an email, please do. Oops. The break sponsors are also important. They get something out of being here and talking to all of you, but more importantly, we get some financial contribution from them. And at this meeting, it has been very, very, very helpful to have a few more break sponsors. Beer and Gear, our traditional sponsors, I think the report early on is that it has been a successful return for the sponsors to come here to the Dominican Republic and be here to be with you. When we planned this meeting, we weren't really sure that there would be a following, and it's really, really nice to know that the sponsors still believe in the model, although they have some recommendations on changes we might want to consider as well. Our social sponsor this evening is an important part of our visit here to the Dominican Republic. So if you haven't made plans to go to the reception, please do. I'm told it's going to be pretty outstanding. I wanted to take a few minutes tonight so that we're not talking about this in the hallway conversations or as part of the important agenda for the meeting itself tomorrow, but give you my 2-minute overview. Not 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Sorry, I'll keep it to 2 seconds. I'm often asked back home at Merit, and certainly here, why does Merit want to do this? Why does Merit, this nonprofit organization that is particularly not a national player, very important in our regional state of Michigan, but why do we want to do this? Why do we want to be a non-for-profit hosting NANOG? Well, we do it because the mission of Merit, if you go to our Merit webpage, merit.edu, you'll see that our philosophy has been and continues to be about building a community base, serving as a facilitator to our members. And we see in NANOG all of you being a community. And we're very, very happy to be a part of that community. And through that membership, we're serving our mission as a nonprofit in Michigan. So there's the linkage. Why do we do it? Because we see our philosophy at Merit is building communities, and we want to be a part of this community. We're not driving necessarily what you do. We want to be a facilitator of your community. And we do that in a way that we hope you trust us, that we're a trusted source. We're not here as a vendor to compete with all of you, but that we're a trusted source. We have been through some times before. We hope we're past all of those, and that you see through Merit the transparency of the financial information and our working relationship with all of the committees that you elect. If we're not a trusted source, if there are really issues that are bugging you and you feel the need to say something directly to Merit, always email me, email our CEO, Don Walsh, who's not here this time. He actually broke his hip. So we've had our injuries back at Merit. He couldn't be here with us this time. But we really do care. We take very seriously the 2 points of being a community-based organization and that we're a trusted source. We believe that through those missions above, we take back to our state the educational and research development ideas, which is all about what we started many years ago back at Merit, and through the relationship with all of you, we can enhance our base back in Michigan. And lastly, we bring a number of Merit staff with us to these meetings, and it's the knowledge transfer that they gain from being a part of the community with you that makes our network back at home that much better. One of the ways in which you can speak with all of us, and here are the things that we generally try to listen to through nanog-support@nanog.org. All of the members of Merit staff, who's all here? Can you stand up, guys? Merit staff? They're not all here. There's a few of them, our network engineers. They did a great job, guys. We all arrived, just so you know, the kind of dedication that they all do on your behalf. Many of us arrived here on Thursday afternoon, and we haven't been outdoors yet. So the Merit staff really do take very seriously their job of working to make this meeting and this venue work for you when you arrive. The folks that are here primarily are on our engineering and network side. But you all know Carol Wadsworth. I'm sure if you haven't met her, you will see her many times, and Gail Turkhurst as well, who does registration. Generally, if you really want to know something, send your question to NANOG support, because if you just ask me, I probably won't know the answer, but the wonderful Merit staff will, who are a membership of that list. The things that we deal with are hosting and sponsorship questions. How to be a host? Do I want to be a host? What do I get for being a host? Do I want to be a sponsor? How much does it cost? Are there any sponsorship opportunities? Those are the kinds of questions that we deal with. We also are responsible for the physical organizational structure of the email list, not the content or the management of it, but how it operates, and the website. If you haven't had an opportunity to receive email messages from Brian, our webmaster, ask Joe or Chris or Todd or Ren. He's great and is willing to work with almost anybody who has a great suggestion on how to make the NANOG website service the community. And he's also a part of NANOG support, so any suggestions he's more than willing to take in. Registration, of course, getting you all registered for the meetings, keeping the demographic of who was here, and all that goes with that. The meeting logistics, they're all different. Every meeting we have our NANOG stories that we always tell, but the Merit staff do a lot to make the NANOG community meetings and the community work as a whole. Certainly we work with the community committees, and we see their role as very, very instrumental in making all of this work. Now the important one, I know, P's again, sorry. NANOG 44, you all like to hear about the revenue. It's right here. It didn't line up quite as well, so it kind of rolls together there. But the revenue from the meeting was $355,898.62. So that's what we took in from registration and sponsorship. The expenses that we attributed to that meeting and the way expenses happen are those expenses that were just for the meeting and the quarterly expenses of the merit overhead or staff charges assigned to that meeting. So for that meeting, the expenses charged to the activity was $308,888.99. The expenses break down in those categories, the salary, non-salary, we all know what those mean. Non-salary is made up of equipment, supplies, staff travel, hosting, and the general overhead. What it cost NANOG for its share of the merit rent and insurance and legal fees and all the other things that we all know what G&A are. That means that the NANOG 44 balance is $47,009.63. I want to make an important point. That balance does not go back into the merit general fund, if you will. There is a separate account back at Merit that is set aside to carry forward these balances. Those balances are used because in order for us to accomplish the next set of meetings, we have to have cash reserve. We have to have cash reserve in the bank account to go out and submit hotel contracts. So that's why this whole discussion about 2 meetings a year, 3 meetings a year, should we go back to the same locations, new locations, and all of those discussion points that you'll see on the survey and that we'll be having over the next few days are important. As Joe mentioned, it's been a goal of not only NANOG but the steering committee to get meetings scheduled way in advance. This is the first time ever since I've been engaged that we can report we have the next 3 meetings anchored. We're going in June, which is NANOG 46, to Philadelphia. Comcast is going to be our host. So at the conclusion of this meeting, the new website will be up. Probably 2 weeks after that, we'll have the hotel reservation link up so you can actually begin to reserve. NANOG 47 in October is going to be in Dearborn, Michigan. We're very excited. I worked very hard with our partners, Arbor Networks, and Merit itself to bring NANOG back to Michigan. It's been a really, really long time since Merit stepped forward and said, you know, we need to host a meeting, and so we're very excited about NANOG 47. NANOG 48, a year from now, if you can believe that, Data Foundry and GigaNews is going to host in Austin, Texas. Also very excited. This is just amazing that we can actually publish these dates this far in advance. The discussion is around what happens for NANOG 49 in June and NANOG 50 in October. We actually have some open discussions with some possible hosts. So if we want to make any changes, we should be doing it soon, or it'll be also very exciting that we can publish the next 2 years' worth of meeting dates and locations and give us some time to continue to review and discuss.
Thank you, Betty, for this and for working hard on this, because we've been trying to get here for quite some time, and it takes a serious capital outlay and a serious level of trust from the board at Merit to actually underwrite all these contracts.
Thank you.
I was going to echo that, but at the same time, I wonder, are these clashing at all with any other future meetings, or were you able to position them so we don't have that awkward period of time?
If you look on the national calendar, there are teeny tiny bit of rushing from one airport to the other, but we're not overlapping. There's some closeness. Some may not be as comfortable with the closeness of the meetings, but we're not overlapping. So I answered but didn't answer. No, we're not clashing, but we're close to some of the other meetings.
Well, we tend to be close to ripe in October. June, I mean, there is, like we overlap with NZNOG this time. We overlap with PACNOG for a piece of June, not the whole time. A little bit of Usenix, not the whole time.
Not too bad. It's pretty good.
It's not the best of scenarios. As we look at the next year, the next set of meetings out, we'll be in the driver's seat. So we're catching up. We're not quite where we wanted to be, but it was important for us to be able to get the merit board support, get the revenue that we needed in the bank to convince them to take the risk for Carol Wadsworth to negotiate all these hotel contracts, and for hosts to want to go that far forward and say, yeah, count on us. We'll be there for you. So there are a lot of things that had to come into an alignment just to get us here. Now I would have to say we're in the driver's seat.
Yeah, I would say that we would know that when we were building this buffer time, there would be conflicts because other meetings have gotten further ahead of us in their scheduling. And now we're more in the, given this schedule, we're more in the future cloud where other folks don't have stakes in the ground. So we're all able to plan around each other a little better.
I'll just echo that. There have been other groups, especially some of the more regional NOGs, that have tried to schedule around us. NZNOG, I think, is one of those. And because we haven't been able to put our schedules out far enough in advance, we've ended up stepping on each other. This way, we'll be there. They can schedule around us as they want.
Hi, I just want to make it clear in case, because we talked a lot about this, but it didn't come real clear to me. The SC actually spent a lot of time looking at where all the other meetings were, and we made very clear, conscious decisions based on the limitations we had inside of where we could get space, which hotels were open, and what the other meetings were. And we made a gigantic effort to not step on other meetings whenever possible. But if you look at the calendar, that's not physically possible. So I personally did some work looking at like where the overlap was, like if Apricot overlaps more than Ripe does and things like that. And we tried to pick meeting times that would be the least inconvenient for the least number of people. And if we failed, I'm sorry, but it's not for lack of trying. Okay?
And the very concrete, more honest way of saying we've gotten out ahead of the other meetings is that now there will continue to be roughly just as many conflicts, but we're going to blame it on someone else.
Well, and as I mentioned earlier, I think that going forward, Merit is now finding engaging conversations with other organizations who are working to schedule with us or near us. There's a whole different dialogue that's going on internationally with those that do meeting planning, as opposed to just what date you have, but really what date and where are you looking at. So there's a whole level of additional dialogue that's going on that supports the community agendas.
So the other useful thing to point out is specifically there are locations that people have asked us to schedule that we haven't been able to get because we haven't scheduled far enough out in advance. Like Comcast in Philly, we only got because there was a big cancellation. But if there hadn't been a big cancellation, in general, all the good hotels in Philly book up a year in advance, and if we're scheduling 4 months in advance, we're screwed. Chicago, I've talked to a bunch of people who are like, let's go back to Chicago. Chicago was awesome from a travel perspective. A bunch of people like the hotel and the venue. Well, all the good venues, and the one really good venue in Chicago books up between 12 and 18 months in advance. And since we haven't been 12 to 18 months in advance, we couldn't ever really figure out how to go back to Chicago. Well, now, if you guys want to go back to Chicago, we can say so, and let's find a sponsor in Chicago, and let's go. If there's somewhere else, if you guys really want to be in, Toronto in February, because I've been hearing a lot of grief about this location. When we were in Toronto in February last year, people said, send us somewhere warm. Well, here we're in Santo Domingo, and now I'm hearing like, God, Toronto is a great site. You guys are just whiny. But if it's Toronto, it's fine. If it's Toronto, you want just whatever. Give us some feedback and give us some sponsors, and we'll go chase them. Right.
New Orleans.
Oh, that's interesting.
Please.
New Orleans.
Somebody?
Okay.
New Orleans?
New Orleans. All right.
Pete Templin, TextLink /FacWest. Just for the sake of talking about travel and such, keep in mind that Austin
as far as I know, is a hub for no one. So most folks are going to have to connect unless they are coming from hubs. Just a small factor.
Well, that's another one of these decision points about locations. You can either go to an easy travel location like Chicago and wind up needing to book far in advance and have a pricier hotel. Or if you go to Austin, yeah, it's a tier 2 and everybody will have to take at least one connection, but conversely, it can be more affordable in some of the venues or easier to book.
And here's the key budget number. Again, I'm the one who has to worry about all these numbers most of the time, so I just want to point out to the community, the decision about location fits right into that number that says $128,000. So there's a direct relationship in the budget to the venue. So it's not a big deal. I mean, we can make it work. But again, because we're all community-based, and at the end of the day, we're all looking at that bottom number so that we can make sure that we have a reserve going forward. It's okay with us. We just all have to realize that a one-stop city will cost more money.
Well, and just, I'm going to grossly oversimplify, but some of it might be true. Look at 3 cities from a financial perspective. The Redmond, Bellevue NANOG, LA NANOG, and Albuquerque NANOG. So LA NANOG, really expensive location because it's a big city, but so many people came that we made money. I mean, it was one of the best attended NANOGs ever because it's in a location a lot of people can get to really easily. Tons of last minute registration from people who are like in the region. All right, so expensive, but we made it up in attendance. Bellevue, pretty expensive location, decent location, but not enough people came. And so it was well attended, but it wasn't really well attended, and so we lost money on it. Albuquerque, mediocre to crappy location. I lived there for 8 years. I go with crappy. Some people say mediocre. It's just, perspective. But it's not easy for many people to get to. Not a big local population, although we had some local attendance. But it didn't matter because all the hotel costs were so cheap, we made a little bit of money on it. So these are the kinds of, that's the kind of scenario. Can you get it in an expensive place that's easy to get to, and so many people will come, it doesn't matter that the hotel costs a bunch of money? Or do you put some of them in more out of the way, cheaper locations, knowing that you're not going to get, 600 people, but you might get 300 people? So these are, and both are fine. Like, what we want is input from people of what do you want. It's okay to do meetings. The other thing that people have referred to it is that NANOG fund, we'd really like to have $1 million in there instead of a couple $100,000 in there, because it increases the flexibility that we have to do stuff more in advance. We're not just, we are money grubbing people, but it's not just money grubbing, right? We actually want to be able to do more stuff. And so that goes back to the sponsorship question of, are you guys willing to put up with banners somewhere? Do you want to see more gear at more time and we get more money from it? Do you want sponsored, little rooms where people buy you crap and buy you drinks and spiel at you? All of these things, you guys know, you guys go to other conferences, you get spieled at, and those conferences make money off of that, and we don't do any of that stuff. If we do some of that stuff, we can make some more money and we can do more stuff with it. If we don't, that's okay, but it just means we're not going to be able to plan as much in advance. Mr. Levy.
One point, as you've got this slide back up again, what was the balance that was brought forward from the previous meeting?
35,000, I believe, 33,000. It's on the website. I'm sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. That answers
but
the question.
it made up for the $38,000 loss we had from the meeting before.
Right.
So they're all there.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah.
And then to Todd's point, as much as you've got all of the comments about the different cities, with 44 after this 45 meetings in our pocket, surely there must be some statistical information there that really shows whether, last minute local people versus Albuquerque actually is a good idea. And there must be either there's some data there or there isn't.
There's an enormous amount of data, but analyzing it is very complex because there are cyclical, there are weather factors, there are local factors, there are cycles of our business factors. So did Salt Lake City have low attendance because it was immediately post-bomb or because it was Salt Lake City? I don't know.
But you make a great point. The data's there, and there isn't any reason why we can't find a place to put it up on the website. So it's all graphed. It's been shared, and we can certainly do that. Good point.
One of the, I'm sorry.
Hi, Andre Edwards, Caribbean Telecommunications Union. I was just wondering, what was the primary driver in coming out of the North America to come down to Santo Domingo? Considering all the things that you've been balancing there in terms of the finances, what was the primary driver there? As well as if going forward you would have been considering any other place in the Caribbean, well, it'd be what, like 49, 50, that kind of thing. I'm just trying to ascertain how you balance it.
No, a great point. I was wondering when it would come up. Certainly back home at Merit, I was asked often, so why? So why? What are your goals for going to the Dominican Republic? Why do you want to take NANOG for the first time out of North America? Had many discussions even with the steering committee that was in place 2 years ago and the current steering committee about those very issues. So I'll give you my 3 goals. I don't know that it's exactly shared by everyone, but they're the 3 goals that I shared with Merit as the reason a tiny nonprofit, not tiny, a nonprofit in Michigan that's owned by the public universities in the state would want to support taking this organization that is 20-some years old, primarily doing very well in North America, to the Caribbean. Well, there were 3 reasons. The first one is we wanted to be able to stretch the community. We wanted to be able to take NANOG and its mission and goals into an area of the country, into the Caribbean, where we see this community building philosophy badly needed. And I say it's badly needed because even when we talked about coming here to NANOG, or taking NANOG to the Caribbean, is it because of ARIN, the American Registry of Internet Numbers, or is it because of LACNIC? Bringing NANOG here, we're a neutral player. We're here to facilitate the needs of the operators, not align ourselves with one organization or another. So that was one goal. Hopefully we've met that by being able to bring a facilitation of the Caribbean operators and an experience, the second goal, allowing folks who perhaps don't travel outside of the area, the Caribbean area generally, often, exposure to the operators around the world that do travel. So there's the transfer of knowledge that might happen from all of these folks attending this meeting being here with the operators of the region. We won't know until someone tells us, oh, it was a great meeting and we had a lot of discussion. And then thirdly, the reason for coming here was that from being here, being the kind of organization that we are, we left something behind. We leave some goal, some value that either the operators would aspire to build for themselves, or that we've at least provided connectivity or helped a startup provider in the area have something better to service the area from having worked with us. So those were my 3 lofty goals for being here.
I personally think it's a great thing that NANOG is being held down here. The only challenge I see, or one of the challenges I see, is that this is perceived as, you know, kind of a vacation destination, a great place to go, and as a result of, it's hard to justify internally to some companies that this is actually a work trip, this is not me trying to get some vacation benefits. But let's see, what were we talking about before?
Money?
Oh, the money thing. Commercialization, my suggestion is look at the past surveys. I don't think there has been anyone who said NANOG is too commercial.
Oh, no, yes, there have. There have. Now, it is not the din that it has been in the past, but we do get complaints about it periodically. There's a balance to be struck.
Okay, I think we can go more commercial, my own personal perspective.
A lot of the members of the SC believe that, and the PC, and part of the question I put out when I was talking is, you know, we need to hear from you how much is going to be too much. Do we try to do some incremental steps and see what's painful, or do we make some large steps?
Don't sell the email addresses. That's the dividing line.
Good point.
I mean, this is coming, let me point out, from the man who sold sponsorship space on his badge at the Los Angeles NANOG. So,
yes.
I wanted to actually address both Bill's comment and one before. We are, on the steering committee, are looking at the sponsorship model. We are not assuming that what we have now is what the community wants. We're not trying to really assume much of anything, so input is definitely requested. To the previous question about why we're here, flip answer was because we got too many complaints about Toronto. So we decided to go somewhere warm. But I think a large part of the real answer is because of Josh and Terramark stepping up and offering the idea. They put a lot of effort into making it so that we could get here, so that some of the issues that we would normally have with international travel and shipping would be smoothed over. We have a lot of cooperation from the government of the Dominican Republic because of Terramark's help. So I think we owe them a lot of thanks. And we did, it was about a year ago this time, even before that, we were trying to decide, okay, where in Caribbean, if we're coming, where should we go? And Santo Domingo became logical choice, partly because Terramark has operations here, partly because the government help, the economy is friendly to us. A lot of good reasons for being here. It's not a huge tourist destination like somewhere else might have been, but it's a real city, a place able to support us. And hopefully we can return the favor by bringing or by sharing our knowledge and learning from people here.
Yeah, hi, Andre again. I must say that I'm thankful that you all did take the initiative to come down this way because we have been trying to build up the network operators community, and we have a lot to learn from the way that things are structured and stuff. I'm not sure who I'd have to interact with, but I would like to find out more about how you continually motivate people to actually be active, because that is the main thing that is delaying the movement forward. The more that people are focused on, oh, I'm too busy and that kind of stuff, and not considering the value in the interaction. So I'm curious about how the things that you have done, the pathways that you've gone through, trying to learn more about the history that you've gone to get to this place so that we can then build something going forward. So I'm not sure who to interact with, but you could always point me.
Well, I'm sure your question will engage a lot of folks in this room to come and find you and have a conversation with you. You can certainly find me around. I'm here, there, and everywhere around the meeting venue, and look for anyone with a yellow badge, or what color are we? Blue, which are members of the various committees, and I'm sure that they can impart some wisdom or some thoughts on that subject.
Suzanne Wolf, ISC. As far as the question about commercialization and how far to go and what direction to take it, I don't think you need to worry about whether people are going to be offended by banners in sort of the overt commercialization kinds of things, maybe as much as historically we tend to think of it. Because NANOG came out of an academically based community. Many of us in the room and at the meeting came out of that same background. But we've changed, times have changed, and NANOG's allowed to change too. The thing I'd be concerned about is the balance between sponsorship and revenue and content, because people do trust NANOG to be a place where you can get up and say, the industry's screwing up, or people are not handling this set of issues well. And we don't name names because that's just not how we've ever operated. But there's an expectation that people will be able to say, we as the industry or we as the internet are not doing something we should be doing, or are doing something we shouldn't. And I'd hate to see you lose that.
Duly noted, duly noted. I think we need to wrap it up so that we can get off to the reception. We need to secure the room, so look forward to seeing everyone in about an hour down in the Colonial Square and tomorrow morning. Thanks again.
Yes, so buses leave out front in 8 minutes. Be there.